So let's be fair. Madam Web was never going to be a blockbuster. It was never destined to be a good film. And it certainly wasn't going to save Sony's disjointed Spider-Verse universe that actually has no Spider-Man. But the numbers we are seeing are more than just an embarrassment right now. They are an outright repudiation of the all-girl boss, garbage tier, politics first kind of filmmaking in the loudest possible way. And just how bad did this film flop? Well, I'm not even sure there's a word for it. I can't find one to describe this. But let's get into the numbers. Here we go. Now, before we get started on the atrocious numbers in front of us, here's a quick reminder to make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. And believe it or not, we're still about 40% of you that are watching the videos, maybe for the first time or the 1000th time. Just take a second, make that little red button down there gray. It's free, and truly you will be helping me out and making this channel grow, which my goal is to get to 20,000 by the end of February, which I think is possible. Now let's get to these numbers though, and they're truly insane. And at risk of sounding redundant, there was no way that Sony thought that this movie was going to be good. In fact, they didn't even think it was a good idea. In fact, they were changing the content in the script midstream after Dakota Johnson had already signed on. And having her do stuff a different way was going to be a disaster. The irresponsible babysitter shtick mixed with 20-somethings playing teenagers was also a bad plan. I mean, from the sounds of it, you can actually lay all of these bad decisions on one person, S.J. Clarkson. Well, and then you can add in the staff of incompetent writers that joined her, and well, we got what we got. And since I did an actual lengthy review about this movie, or on this movie, with spoilers mixed in fact, you can check that out right up here. You can get some more detailed thoughts there, but for now, I'll try and skip those details. I just want to acknowledge something right now. This is what we're going to be getting from the Sony Spider-Verse going forward. At least that's rumored to be the case, and any film without Spider-Man in it will be this kind of garbage. The numbers will be bad and the budget will be low, so if you didn't like all that Pepsi product placement stuff, well, just think of that as a sign of things to come. And another sign of things to come are these terrible numbers. When this movie was being made, it was announced with a tiny budget by superhero film standards. A mere $80 million, in fact. That's a low budget to be sure, and thought to be low enough to make a profit. Wrong. In fact, when we get to the numbers in just a second, the results were so shockingly bad that this film has no prayer of making a profit. Not only are we hearing from the trades that the budget was bumped up quite a bit, well north of $100 million, the film's promotional efforts skewed heavily female and younger in demographics. In fact, 75% of the promotional budget, a cool $45 million all told, was all social media, primarily TikTok and the like, but surprise, surprise, none of that paid off, since once again, the majority of the audience is men at 54%. Unsurprisingly, the audience in its entirety did not like this film, with a terrible post-track score that, well, is rather laughable. Suffice it to say, when it comes to the numbers, they were bad. Over what would have been a traditional weekend, the film would have scored a $15.2 million open. Of course, it was anything but traditional, with a Wednesday open on Valentine's Day and a 6-day yield of only $25 million domestic. The global numbers aren't final yet, but they're also tracking at the same rate, $25 million. That's a disappointment from 61 different international markets. This is a global flop, tracking far behind Morbius at this point and earning a well-deserved C+ cinema score. In fact, that may be too high. And it's getting a 13% Rotten Tomatoes average from critics and a surprisingly higher 54% from verified audience on the other side. I guess Rotten Tomatoes is okay with having fake scores elevate the numbers here, but they can't hide the truth. Regardless, it's quite possible that Madam Web could earn enough in its box office run to recover its budget. As for the film itself, that's going to be a complete loss. Even with some tax credits that are supposedly knocking down the budget spend here, this film will lose around $100 million total, perhaps more. At the end of the day, making a Spider-Man film with no Spider-Man, a superhero film with no superheroes, and a thriller film with no thrills is always going to lose you a ton of money, which seems like exactly what this film was. I mean, take note, studio bosses. There are no more free passes in all the genres that you've destroyed with your neo-Marxist messaging. Even the targeted young demographic that you were aiming this at, the female demographic that you were aiming this at. They're just rejecting it. In fact, they're rejecting a lot of things right now. Pretty soon, it will all just be people like me, saying the things your shills won't say, going to see movies and reviewing them with far more credibility than the $50 critic that you bought over on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's pretty telling that you didn't buy very many critics over on Rotten Tomatoes with this film. Look, 4,000 theaters, a 6-day weekend opening, and a $25 million total. There's nothing more to say than that. I guess you could say, what a terrible waste of time and money. What a way to destroy and set back an entire set of careers. And for future note, anything cinematic with the following names should be avoided at all costs. Writer-director S.J. Clarkson, writer-producer Claire Parker, writer Matt Sazma, and Burke Sharpless. Oh, and editor Lee Folsom Boyd, because all of them made this, and a lot of their previous work, well, it's all out there for you to see the scores they're associated with. So there you have it. The financial and cinematic disaster that is Madam Web. This is the frontrunner and likely winner of this year's worst big budget film. I mean, if we get another contender, we may have to put it to a vote, but I don't expect any. Well, except for maybe Kraven the Hunter. Oh. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Madam Web and its future? Is this going to kick off the further adventures of these ladies with no superpowers? Will Kraven the Hunter be any better? And did this hurt Marvel, the brand, even more because of its tangential association? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and while you're down there, hit that like button and share this out on your social medias because it really does help. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya.